In the cold stillness of space, silence is the default. Planets orbit in complete quiet. Stars are born and die without sound. For centuries, we believed that if something or someone was out there, it would have to scream to be heard across the impossible distances between stars. But we were wrong, because sometimes the loudest messages come not as shouts, but as whispers hidden in the data. It started, as these things often do, with a blur. A pixelated streak against the velvet black of the Milky Way, picked up by the Atlas Observatory in Chile on July 1, 2025. At first, it looked like a comet, another dusty snowball drifting harmlessly through space. But within hours, something felt off. The object was moving too fast, over 137,000 miles per hour. It wasn't following any known orbit. It wasn't even bound to the sun's gravity. It was just passing through. Only two other objects like this had ever been seen, the mysterious Oumuamua in 2017 and comet Borisov in 2019. But this one was different. Bigger, faster, stranger. Scientists began tracking it from every corner of the globe. Within 24 hours, it was confirmed. 3I Atlas was not from our solar system. It was interstellar, a visitor from the deep unknown. And as more telescopes turned their eyes to it, including the James Webb Space Telescope, the object began to reveal secrets no one was prepared for. Its chemistry was wrong. Its motion was precise. Its behavior, unsettling. And buried deep in the light it reflected was a structured signal, a pattern that shouldn't be there. A transmission not made by chance. For years, humanity has wondered what it would look like. Our first real message from the stars. What language it would use, what symbols, what meaning. But no one expected it to come like this. Not through radio waves or alien alphabets, but through molecular imbalances and spectral anomalies, the language of science itself. Now, the evidence is mounting, and the conclusion is terrifying. This object may not be natural. And if it's sending a message, we have to ask, who is it meant for? And what does it say? From the very moment 3I Atlas was spotted, one thing stood out like a siren blaring in the minds of every astronomer on Earth. The speed. 137,000 miles per hour. That's not fast by human standards. That's fast by cosmic standards. So fast that even the immense gravity of the sun, capable of pulling entire planets into eternal orbit, couldn't slow it down. This object wasn't captured. It wasn't visiting. It was just passing through, unbound, unstoppable. And that meant only one thing. It wasn't from here. To grasp the magnitude of that, you need to understand what speed means in space. At 137,000 miles per hour, 3I Atlas could cross the United States coast to coast in under 2 minutes. It could lap the Earth in less than 8 minutes. It moves 55 times faster than a bullet, more than double the velocity of Voyager 1, our most distant probe, and Voyager took decades to reach interstellar space. 3I Atlas was born there. The only way to move that fast, to escape a star system's pull, is to be launched, either by the gravitational chaos of early planetary formation, or by something else. And the trajectory? A perfect hyperbola. That means it didn't loop in. It didn't curve around. It sliced straight through the solar system, diving in from above, cutting across the plane of the planets, and exiting in a direction that no natural object in our neighborhood could ever take. This is not just another rock. This is a galactic projectile, fired through the void on a path that may have begun billions of years ago. The implications are enormous, because anything moving this fast carries with it not just kinetic energy, but cosmic history, a story written in speed and silence. But 3I Atlas wasn't done writing, because the more closely scientists looked, the stranger its story became. Once telescopes locked onto 3I Atlas, the first priority was clear: scan its light. Every element and molecule in space leaves a fingerprint, patterns in the spectrum that tell us what a thing is made of. Comets, for instance, are usually rich in water vapor. As they approach the sun, their ices heat up and sublimate, releasing a cloud of gas dominated by H2O. Some CO2, sure. Trace metals, yes. But always with water leading the charge. But that's not what 3I Atlas gave us. When the James Webb Space Telescope returned its first full-spectrum readout, scientists were stunned. The ratio of carbon dioxide to water was 8:1, Let that sink in. Most comets release more water than CO2. The extreme cases might reach 2 to 1. But this was off the charts. The object was releasing 129 kilograms of CO2 every second, compared to just 16 of water. That's not a comet. That's a chemical paradox. Some tried to explain it away. Maybe it formed in a different kind of system, one where the CO2 ice line was closer to its star. Maybe cosmic rays stripped its water over billions of years. But none of the models worked. The object's chemistry didn't just stretch the rules, it shattered them. And it wasn't just the carbon dioxide. The Very Large Telescope in Chile picked up another anomaly: nickel emissions without iron. On Earth, and in every meteorite ever studied, iron and nickel are partners, forged in the heart of stars, released together when comets warm. But here, only nickel appeared. No iron, no explanation. The more data came in, the clearer it became. This object wasn't just unusual, it was unprecedented. A chemical fingerprint unlike anything we've seen, either natural or synthetic. A fingerprint that didn't match any comet. A fingerprint that didn't belong to us. And some scientists began to whisper the unthinkable: what if the anomaly is the message? Speed and chemistry alone would make 3I Atlas one of the most mysterious objects ever observed. But then came something even harder to ignore: its trajectory. As astronomers plotted its path through the solar system, they began to notice something strange. It wasn't just passing randomly. It was gliding through a sequence of planetary near-misses. First, it would pass within 0.19 astronomical units of Mars, about 29 million kilometers. Then, 0.65 astronomical units from Venus, and finally just 0.36 astronomical units from Jupiter. 3 major planets, one after the other, all within months. That might sound like coincidence. But when Avi Loeb and his team ran the probabilities, they came back with a number that sent chills down the spine of the scientific community: 0.005%. That's the chance of a random interstellar object executing such a sequence by accident. 1 in 20,000. And it wasn't just where it passed, it was how. The alignment mimicked the exact kinds of gravity assist flybys used by human spacecraft. It mirrored the logic of Voyager, of New Horizons, of Cassini. And the object needed no fuel, no propulsion, just timing. Perfect timing. Some dismissed it as a cosmic fluke. Others weren't so sure. Because the final detail was even stranger. The object would reach its closest point to the Sun while hidden behind it from Earth's view. During its most active and visible phase, it would be on the far side of the Sun, invisible to all ground-based telescopes. That's not just improbable, that's eerie. It's as if the object planned its most important maneuver at the one time we couldn't see it. What kind of visitor moves with that kind of precision? And why hide the most important part of its journey? For weeks, scientists had been staring at the data, trying to make sense of the numbers, the spectral ratios, the molecular breakdowns, the missing iron, the overabundant CO2. But then, someone noticed something else, something beneath the noise. In the spectral data, embedded in the frequencies reflected by the object, was a pulse. Not an audio signal, not a radio burst, but a pattern in the light, repeating, structured, not random. A modulation that showed up in different wavelengths, repeating at consistent intervals across different observations. It wasn't natural, not by any known process. It didn't match solar interference. It didn't match thermal noise. It was timed. It was encoded. And when analysts compared it to known mathematical structures, what they found was even more disturbing. The pulse aligned with patterns found in self-correcting digital code, the kind of logic used in computers, in artificial systems, in designed transmissions. Was this the signature of a propulsion system, an internal reactor? Or was it a broadcast, hidden in plain sight, using the object's reflective properties to speak without speaking? Some believe it's a message, others think it's bait. But one thing is certain, it's not silence. It's communication through physics, a signal we were never meant to hear, but are now unable to ignore. As 3I Atlas continued its journey through the solar system, researchers from the European Space Agency and NASA began to notice a curious irregularity in the way background starlight bent around the object. At first, it appeared subtle, just a faint distortion in how photons traveled near its path. But over time, as more data accumulated from parallax telescopic imaging, the pattern became undeniable. 3I Atlas was acting as a microgravitational lens, bending light in ways that were too strong for its mass. According to Newtonian mechanics, the object's size and assumed composition could not cause that level of lensing, not even close. This revelation sparked a frenzy in gravitational modeling labs. If the object was producing a lensing effect disproportionate to its mass, there were only two options. Either our models of gravity need rewriting, or 3I Atlas is manipulating its own local gravitational field. That concept, once relegated to science fiction, began to gain traction. Could the object be generating an artificial field? If so, what was its purpose? Camouflage, shielding, data collection? Even more terrifying, the pattern of distortion was not static. It shifted in a way that seemed responsive, almost adaptive. Observatories in Japan and Italy reported slight fluctuations in lensing strength correlated to their observation times, raising the chilling possibility that the object was aware of being watched and was responding in kind. If this gravitational anomaly is intentional, then 3I Atlas isn't just drifting through space. It's navigating, it's adjusting, it's aware of its environment, and it may be shaping space itself to remain hidden, or worse, to observe us without being fully observed. It started slowly, a spike in search engine trends. Sudden mentions of 3I Atlas on forums, conspiracy sites, and dark web threads. Then came the mainstream headlines, alien visitor or cosmic anomaly, and the viral videos racking up millions of views. But beneath the digital noise was something stranger, something eerily synchronized. Mental health professionals across Europe and North America reported an unusual uptick in anxiety episodes. A disproportionate number of patients, especially those prone to high intuition or vivid dreams, described the same recurring vision, a glowing eye in the sky, watching silently. Some called it prophetic, others dismissed it as mass hysteria. But then came the shared symbols. People in different continents, unrelated, unconnected, began sketching patterns that closely mirrored the spectral emission graphs released by Webb and VLT. How could civilians, unaware of spectroscopy, reproduce shapes eerily similar to the hidden code? Was it coincidence or contact? In secret meetings, psychologists and neurobiologists began exploring a radical hypothesis: nonverbal transmission. Could the hidden signal be affecting not just machines, but minds? Low-frequency EM fields? Quantum entanglement of the observer effect? It sounds impossible until you consider the idea that an advanced intelligence might not communicate through sound or words, but through intuition, through dream logic, through a medium we don't even recognize as language. Whatever the cause, one thing was clear. The world was feeling something, even if it couldn't articulate what. And it wasn't just fear, it was recognition. As theories intensified and online communities exploded with speculation, something strange began to happen. Data sources started going dark. First, it was a delay in the James Webb Public Data Portal. Then, unexplained outages in the VLT's live feed servers. Finally, the Atlas Observatory announced it would temporarily restrict access to raw image data due to security concerns. Security concerns? About a comet? A growing number of amateur astronomers began to suspect foul play. Leaked documents from an internal NASA Slack channel mentioned containment procedures and public deflection strategies. Some screenshots even showed direct references to 3I Atlas being designated as Type X anomaly, a classification not publicly defined. The term spread like wildfire. Type X, what did it mean? Classified visitor, unacknowledged contact, controllable panic. Journalists pushing for information received polite stonewalling or silence. FOIA requests were returned with blacked-out pages. And quietly, without any formal declaration, every major government began monitoring online mentions of 3I Atlas. Comment sections vanished. Posts were shadow banned. The narrative was being choked, not refuted, not denied, just erased. Because maybe the problem wasn't what the object is. Maybe the real fear lies in what it implies, that someone else is watching us, and we're no longer the dominant intelligence in our own corner of space. In the desperate search for meaning, scientists began collaborating with a very unlikely group, archaeologists. As the strange pulses from 3I Atlas continued to repeat, coded, rhythmic, geometric, someone noticed something uncanny. The pulse pattern bore similarities to the Yamashita spirals found in cave systems across Southeast Asia, dated to over 20,000 years ago. These ancient carvings, long dismissed as symbolic art, suddenly gained new significance. Linguists and cryptographers began decoding structural similarities between the transmission and symbols found on ancient tablets from Mesopotamia, the Nazca lines of Peru, and even carvings in Göbekli Tepe. Could these be echoes of the same signal? Had something like 3I Atlas passed before? Were ancient civilizations trying to warn us, or immortalize what they witnessed? The idea sounds absurd, until you realize that 3I Atlas is on a return trajectory. Its outgoing path will eventually intersect with a region of space believed by many to be a dead zone, a region where other civilizations may once have flourished and vanished. Could 3I Atlas be retracing a path it's traveled before? Could we be the next chapter in an ancient cycle of observation, contact, and collapse? And most chilling of all, if our ancestors carved warnings into stone, what do we leave behind for the next civilization when the next visitor comes? As research teams expanded their analysis of the repeating pulse found in the spectral data from 3I Atlas, a group of computational linguists and semioticians from MIT and the SETI Institute, the pattern might not be random at all, but a language in development. Not a language like ours, with nouns and verbs, but a structural, logical architecture, a kind of recursive code that builds on itself over time. Over weeks of observation, researchers noted that the signal's internal rhythm was subtly changing, evolving, as if adapting its output based on feedback from Earth's sensors. Webb, VLT, and even smaller private telescopes across the globe began detecting slight modulations that seemed to respond to our methods of observation. One waveform mirrored the intervals used by our hydrogen line SETI broadcasts. Another adopted symmetry patterns found in human error-correcting codes used in satellite transmissions. The deeper scientists looked, the more it seemed that 3I Atlas wasn't just broadcasting blindly into space. It was listening, reacting, learning. But here's the disturbing part. The signal only changed after Earth began to look for it. Not before. It was passive until observed. The idea that we might have initiated an interaction, one that now can't be stopped, has shaken institutions to their core. Because what if this object didn't arrive to communicate, but to see who responds? It began with a whisper, a software anomaly in a long decommissioned NASA satellite. Then, hours later, a series of cryptic error codes from the Voyager 2 probe, currently drifting far beyond the heliopause. But the real alarm came when a dormant Cold War surveillance station in Greenland, shut down in 1993, suddenly reactivated, broadcasting low-frequency pulses that matched the spectral cadence of 3I Atlas. Engineers were baffled. These systems had no reason to activate. They weren't online. Their internal logic was outdated by decades. And yet, they turned on. Not in random spurts, but in synchronized intervals, all harmonizing with the pulse coming from the object. Soon after, an abandoned submarine base in the Pacific was found to have powered on internal sonar systems, without human input. And one by one, legacy systems around the world, those designed to monitor the sky or the deep ocean, began reacting to something. The question is chilling. How can an object millions of kilometers away influence terrestrial systems that aren't even supposed to be functional? Is it electromagnetic induction? Some form of quantum resonance? Or were these systems always meant to respond to a particular trigger? Was humanity's own technological infrastructure built, perhaps unknowingly, with backdoors, hard-coded responses to a signal we were destined to receive? And if that's the case, then who designed the blueprint? As 3I Atlas approached perihelion, its closest point to the Sun, researchers began to observe an even more confounding phenomenon. Instruments calibrated to atomic time began registering inconsistencies. At first it was milliseconds, then full seconds, but only when measuring light coming from within the object's immediate surroundings. Nearby stars, pulsars, and even passing asteroids showed distorted time signatures when observed in the same frame as 3I Atlas. What emerged from this confusion was the concept of a temporal dissonance field, a localized zone around the object in which time itself appears to behave non-linearly. In simple terms, the object seems to drag or compress time, depending on perspective. To some sensors, it ages rapidly. To others, not at all. And sometimes, light from the same region arrives twice, as if split by a ripple in causality. While many scientists argue this is a data artifact, quantum physicists have begun to test a bolder idea. 3I Atlas might be using time as a communication medium. Rather than transmitting across distance, it could be encoding information in time itself, a kind of chronological Morse code that only becomes visible when tracked over weeks or months. And if time is being bent, then nothing near the object, no signal, no light, no matter, is truly what it seems. We might be witnessing a phenomenon not just from another star system, but from another version of time altogether. In a last-ditch effort to triangulate the origin point of 3I Atlas, astrophysicists used archived data from deep space observation arrays, particularly long-range Doppler mapping systems never before used for trajectory backtracking. What they found defied logic. Tracing the hyperbolic path backward, they expected to find a region of random interstellar dust or an inert stellar nursery. Instead, the vector passed through a previously overlooked void in the interstellar medium, a dark zone with no apparent stellar bodies. But buried in Voyager 1 telemetry logs from 1989, almost ignored in its time, was a strange anomaly recorded near the same coordinates. A transient magnetic pulse unlike anything detected before or since, dismissed then as a malfunction. Now, cross-referenced with the inbound trajectory of 3I Atlas, it matches the estimated time the object would have passed through that region. This correlation raises a disturbing question. Was Voyager 1 the first to encounter this object, or one of its kind? And did it somehow trigger the launch of 3I Atlas toward our solar system? If true, then this isn't just about contact. It's about consequence. Our exploration of deep space may have sent ripples we never anticipated. And now, 36 years later, something has returned. Not as an answer, but as a reaction. Across billions of miles of void, something moved. Not aimlessly, not by accident. It crossed the stars with velocity, with rhythm, with a pulse buried in silence and light. It did not flash. It did not roar. It didn't descend with fire or send radio waves screaming into the night. It simply arrived. Quiet, calculated, observing, adapting. And now we know, it's not just passing by, it's interacting. 3I Atlas has defied the laws of motion, rewritten our understanding of chemistry, and whispered in a language we're only beginning to understand. Its flight path is no coincidence. Its emissions are not natural, and its signal is alive. Whether it's a message, a test, a remnant of something ancient, or a trigger for something future, one thing is clear: it has changed us, irreversibly. Governments are silent. Data is vanishing. Minds are stirring in synchrony, and machines, long forgotten, are waking up. This isn't discovery. This is activation. We once looked at the stars and wondered if we were alone. But the real question, the one that now haunts every sleepless scientist and hidden analyst, is not whether something is out there. It's whether they've always been here, waiting, watching, listening for the moment we could hear. And now we've heard it. And now, they know. The terrifying possibility is not that we've been contacted. It's that we've been decoded. If this story rattled your sense of safety, if you believe the signal wasn't just science, but a message for the brave to hear, drop your theories in the comments. Was 3I Atlas a probe, a relic, a test, or something else entirely? Share this video with those who still think the stars are silent, because they've never been louder than they are now. Subscribe to this channel. We don't chase the mainstream. We chase the anomalies the world wants to forget.